This morning I'm going to read a quote to you for the start of our class, and it comes from a person, L.R.Nost, K-N-O-S-T, who said this: "Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended, not with time, as they say, but with intention. So love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break and can be mended, not with time, but with intention. So love intentionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you." And of course, that's one reason why we're here, to practice that. You can remember the light that is you. It's also very courageous to even be willing to notice that there are places in the world that are broken. That requires a certain amount of maturity and development, fortitude, courage, bravery, honesty. So notice how your breath and your body and your heart respond to this quote. Remind yourself that you're hearing it in the presence of others. Others who also care about the brokenness of the world, and even the places in us that from our brokenness we aren't behaving at our best. And however your breath and your body have responded, now I'm going to encourage you to lengthen your spine. And as you're lengthening the spine, try to sense a lift at the base of your skull, the center of your heart, and then descending at your shoulders, shoulder blades, and from your sacrum down to your tailbone. Both of these directions are important, how we stay grounded, how we also rise up inwardly. And that rising quality, in yoga we call that rajas, and I associate that with the quality of courage. And the descending quality, in yoga we can call that tamas, and I associate that with the sense of rooting or stabilizing. So both directions are important here. Now please bring your hands together at your heart. And we can think of the third quality. So we have tamas, rajas, and sattva. The third quality is sattva, the quality of clarity, lucidity, luminosity. That light which would shine through, and it radiates in all directions. So we'll chant Om Namah Shivaya Gurave. This particular chant ends with the line that says Niralambaya Tejase, that tejas, that light that needs no conditions to exist because it already exists. So our practice is to help us remember that which is already indwelling. Let's begin. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shandaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Nishpapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishpapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Shanti Om Shanti Shanti Om. You may bow your head to your heart and release your hands. And please open your eyes. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of work with the neck and shoulders, and I'd like us to move towards a very important vata reducing, vata grounding yoga pose. And it's going to require a chair and a couple of blankets and some discernment as we get towards that part of class. So for right now, I'm going to ask you to wrap your right arm around behind you like this. And if you want to, you can hold the opposite elbow if you can reach that. And then tip your left ear towards your left shoulder and bring your chin in towards your throat. And deliberately breathe from your right earlobe across your right shoulder. So this whole span of muscles, many of them related to your stress responses, they are getting your kindness right now. And as you have the chin in towards your throat, let's also think of it as coming in towards the right collarbone. And then on this same angle for the head, this diagonal, raise your chin away from your collarbone. And then bring it back in and down. So this is called flexion for your neck. And this is called extension when you open. And I'd like you to go through those options slowly, so it's not the destination of how deeply in you can come or how far you can reach, but it's the everything in between. Do that one more time. Open your chin and your throat, and then bring that back down so your chin comes in towards your right collarbone, and then slide your chin across towards your left collarbone and your left shoulder. Raise your gaze up to the left and release your right arm. Rotate your head back to center. Notice how the two sides of the neck are different. And then wrap your left arm around behind you. You can choose to hold your right elbow if you like. It's not required. And then tip your right ear towards your right shoulder. And as you do that, bring your chin in towards your collarbone. Lift the base of your skull like the left side of the occiput. And then when you open, raise through your chin. Breathe into your left side neck and throat. And go between the two. This is like a luxury. You have the time for this experience, and you have the luxury of discovering what is going on in there. What messages from your body? What residue have you been sort of gathering there, maybe even unbeknownst to you? So this author, he said, or she said, the brokenness of the world awaits the light that is in you. So we're slowly sort of chipping away at that which causes that light to be less accessible or less radiant. Now the next time that you're going to bring your chin down towards your left collarbone, go ahead and keep it snug in. Move across towards your right collarbone, right shoulder, lift your gaze to the right. And then release your left arm, rotate your head to center. Good morning to your neck. Okay, I'm going to scooch backwards. Now, clasp your hands. Press the heels of your hands forward. Okay, raise up. And as you're raising up, look up and stretch your chin. Don't drop the head backwards so much. As you're looking up actively, lift your chin, stretch your throat. And then exhale, pull your elbows down behind you. Bring your chin down so your hands don't run into your head. Then place the pinky fingers at the base of your skull and wrap the elbows forward, look up. And then exhale, gaze down, squeeze the elbows wide again, squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other. And then pressing up through the heels of your hands, raise your gaze again. Okay, and exhale, pull the elbows wide so your palms go facing down right there. Yeah, and you're looking down. Then, pinkies at the base of the skull, wrap your elbows forward, lift your head and look up. And exhale, gaze down, elbows wide, squeeze the shoulder blades across the upper back. And then inhale to press up and look up. Now, keeping your gaze up, sweep your arms wide. And as the arms go wide, at the bottom of that action, raise your head, look forward, clasp your hands at the small of your back, and press your shoulders back. Raise your arms back as you gaze down. Give a good strong squeeze of your arms, shoulders, shoulder blades, towards the wall behind you. And then inhale as you begin, look up from your heart, your collarbones, your head, and if your knuckles touch the floor behind you, that's great. If they don't, it's okay too. And then bring your head up to level, relax your arms, and notice one more time, okay, what's happening now in the inner experience of your neck and your throat? What can you smile at in your experience? Okay, now one more time, clasp your hands at the small of your back, squeeze the shoulders back, then bend both elbows and place your knuckles at the outside of your left ribcage. Okay, so that secures your right shoulder again. Bring your chin down, left ear towards your left shoulder, chin towards your right collarbone, left ear towards the shoulder, chin towards your collarbone. And again, left ear towards your left shoulder. Now try gazing down past your left shoulder towards the floor. And then slowly rotating to gaze up. Whatever amount your neck and head and throat can do. And then gazing down. One more time. And then gazing down. Come up to center, rotate your head, reach the arms back, your fingers are still clasped, and then take the clasped hands over to the right side. So your knuckles have each other over there as friends. Tip your right ear towards your right shoulder, chin towards your left collarbone, and then take your ear towards your shoulder, and the chin towards the collarbone. And your ear towards your shoulder, so your head's kind of lined up with your shoulder right now, and try gazing down. So in poses that we do in yoga like Trikonasana, Parsvakonasana, let's rotate to gaze up. We often have this trouble like gazing up towards the ceiling in some of those lateral standing poses. Of course, we have permission to also gaze down, but this is a way to get a little hint before you're even in one of those poses, like what's happening with your neck right now. So one more time, gaze down. And then release back to center, clasp the hands, squeeze back. Okay, look up. And then exhale, now hands to your heart. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishpa Panchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Shanti Om. Okay, let's come up to standing for the sun salutation. It's extremely foggy in my backyard, so you will be my rising sun so that I can see directly, whereas I can't see the other. I'll change my camera. Okay, there we go. Okay, so for this sun salutation, please get 2 blocks. And let's start in Uttanasana. And we're going to, I know some of you, your hamstrings might not be as limber as mine are in the morning, but we're going to start with this Uttanasana, and we're going to practice clasping the hands behind the back again in a few moments. So energize your feet and your legs, and decide for yourself if you need to bend the knees a bit for this first Uttanasana, or if you want them to be a little bit straighter. A way that you might make that decision is, how relaxed can your head and shoulders be when you now take the arms around and you interlace your fingers, and then you squeeze the shoulder blades towards the spine and glide your arms overhead. So in this case, I want you to prioritize your upper back, neck, and shoulders, not as much prioritizing the legs. So if the knees have to be bent to accommodate your flexibility at this time of day, please do so. And as you squeeze the arms back, if you realize that actually it's very hard to clasp the hands in this position, then I'm going to recommend that you hold a yoga strap between your hands so you can have more strength for each shoulder to actually press back. Relax the weight of your head and see if you can even just allow your head to make a couple circles, or like a little infinity loop, so your neck is free. Maybe you can gaze to your right and gaze to your left, and just explore. And bring that back to center, and with your hands clasped, and even if the knees are bent, bring your chest forward, heart forward, rise up to standing, and then release your arms, let them dangle. And notice the kind of tangle that goes down the arms. And then bring your hands together in Anjali Mudra. We begin Surya Namaskar. You inhale, raise up. Please use your Ujjayi breath. Exhale, chair pose. Inhale, rise up. Remember that pressing down and rising up, tamas and rajas, both are necessary. Exhale, Uttanasana, so keeping your legs grounded. Now the torso adds to that sense of grounding or rooting. Now inhale, glide forward. That's an action of rajas, or courage. Exhale and bow deeply, an action of rooting, grounding, also humility. Once more, inhale to glide forward through your heart. Now exhale, take your left toes straight back. Press down through the toes of your left foot and the heel of your right, and inhale, rise up. So this is a familiar pose for you guys, so we're going to exhale, arms wide, clasp your hands behind the small of your back. Use a strap if you need to. You squeeze the shoulders back and start gazing up. So keeping the legs really well established, that is the element we call tamas, what is stable, consistent, grounded. The foundation from which you can have this rajas, the courage in this case to open the heart, to open your throat, to lift your gaze, to actually see and feel the world in which we are currently living. Now, as you exhale, keep the back legs strong. Don't collapse onto your front hip. Bring your torso forward and raise the arms up towards the ceiling. And then release your hands to touch the two blocks, and let's inhale, step forward, heart forward. And then exhale to bow towards your legs. Inhale, glide forward, rajas. It's courage, willingness. Step your right foot back. Establish that as your anchor, your taproot. And as you inhale, glide up, crescent lunge. Good, and exhale, arms wide. Reach back to interlace your fingers. Change the interlace by 1 digit if you can, so it feels a little bit unusual. And then again, legs steady, pelvis steady, and rise up. Now from day to day or time to time, you'll find that some days your legs are not as steady as other days, and that might be a reflection of how well you slept or what you ate or what you're thinking about, some of the stressors in your life. But still become with dedication. Whatever is happening, yoga welcomes us to be here. Now with your exhale, keep your back legs steady, and as you bow forward, raise your arms up towards the ceiling without collapsing onto your front hip. And then release both hands to touch the two blocks, and let's step to plank pose, please. So put your index fingers to go a little bit sideways and the thumbs on the inside. Step into plank. And breathing in. Step over 1 foot, point the toes. Glide your heart through to seal pose, kind of like upward dog. Step the other foot over so you're on the toes behind you, the tops of your feet. Yeah. And then gliding down, cobra pose, bhujangasana. Shoulders back, heart forward. Inhale, rise up, seal. Exhale, glide forward, cobra. Really important that you're coming forward with the heart and going back with the shoulders. And inhale, rise up, seal pose. Once more, exhale, bhujangasana. This is a luxury, so don't be unkind to yourself. If you don't bend as well as you want to this morning, no unkindness. Seal pose, plank pose, downward facing dog pose. And then exhale completely. So downward dog pose combines an inner feeling of refuge and reflection with the need for action. So the arms, for example, you have to use what's called your push reflex. You are actively pushing the floor away from you. So at the same time you have that action, there is this internal refuge or reflection. With your next exhale, please step your right foot forward, touch your left knee down. It's called Anjaneyasana in the legs. Hook your left elbow over your right knee. Join your palms together, and as you press your elbows wide, gaze back over your right shoulder. So I would like you to actively press your left elbow against your right knee, but also actively press your right knee into your left elbow. So that's a strong connection for those two parts. And breathe in one more time. And as you exhale, set yourself into Anjaneyasana mode. So you've got your left knee on the floor, press into your right heel, reach back to clasp your hands, and roll upwards. Do not hang in your right hip, please. Not saying that you are, just saying let's not do it. So sometimes in this position, your knuckles will actually be able to press down the back of your left thigh. You'll have like a little support spot there. Press upwards with your heart, and if you do have your knuckles on the back of your thigh, go ahead and press down with your knuckles. And then exhale and release. Let's touch the two blocks. Again, place your index fingers out to the side and step to plank pose. And then reach high to downward facing dog pose. So there's this reflection moment and this necessary action from both arms. Now exhale, left foot forward. Touch your right knee down. Hook your right elbow over your left knee. If you have a hip replacement, you know who you are. And be thoughtful. So I also know you and I trust you. Yeah, you trust me as well. You press both hands into each other and rotate to your left. Gaze past your left shoulder. So for anybody who's teaching and didn't understand what I just said about the hip replacement, this is my hip replacement side, and most surgeons 20 years ago would say this pose is contraindicated, but it depends on the apparatus, the surgical approach, the strength and the integrity of the hip, the student, their self-awareness. So here also when I say press your right elbow against your left knee and press your left knee against your elbow, your left knee is not going to cross the midline. It lines up with the third toe. And then exhale to release. Bring yourself to go forward, Anjaneyasana. Press down through your left heel, reach back to clasp the hands, change the interlace by 1 digit. And as you're going upwards, if your knuckles touch the back of your right thigh, press down there. And then go up through the heart. And now let's exhale. Release both hands to your blocks. Okay, and step to plank pose. Gazing down between your thumbs, listen for the sound of the Ujjayi breath in your inner ear. Step over the other foot first this time, so point the toes. Keep your arms straight and glide your heart forward. Step over the other foot, seal pose. If you like, it could be upward dog pose. And then glide forward, cobra pose. Shoulders back, heart forward. Glide up. And glide forward. Gliding up is like rajas, right? You need the spit and grit, also the courage and determination. One more time. And now roll up to table pose. Reach back to child's pose. Put one block under your head. Also, child's pose used to be contraindicated for hip replacements. The science is different today, so if you are a yoga teacher and you have questions about it, please do let me know. Let's turn the palms face up in this child's pose. Place your elbows somewhere on the floor near to your knees. So the author of the quote said that the brokenness of the world waits for our light to shine through. Leonard Cohen also said, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. please walk your hands back towards your knees. Rise up to kneeling. Okay, so right now I'd like you to have a blanket, or for some of you 2 blankets, but for sure a blanket that goes this way. We're going to be placing the pelvis on the edge of the blanket, and your pubic bone will be on the blanket. But it'll be on the blanket in such a way as it's just coming slightly off the back side of the blanket here. This is a time where if clasping your hands has been hard, you might want the yoga strap to hold between your hands. So come to lying on your stomach, so your pubic bone is kind of just off the back side of the blanket. And you'll know if you come up to your elbows and you tip the tailbone down, you should feel the pubic bone against the blanket right there. Yeah, and then you can reach back to interlace your fingers. Root your legs down, so the tops of your thighs, your kneecaps, your feet and toes all press down, and you can rise up to Salambhasana. Now when you come up, each of you is going to have the height that your body lifts to. I'd like you to squeeze your shoulders back strongly and use the upper back strength to lift away from the floor, not your chin. In fact, lift the base of your skull. Breathe in. Slowly turn your gaze to your right. Slowly rotate your gaze to your left. Let that come back to center. Release your hands, make a little pillow, and turn your head to your right. And notice what happens next with the breath. You just allow it to come. No resistance. And no coercion. And come up to your elbows. You can smile in the direction of me, if you're looking at me. Bend your right knee. I'm smiling at you. Okay, so what's going to happen is we reach back to hold the inside of the right foot, so you turn your palm like this, like you're hitchhiking. When you hold the inside, I know that's a little bit far away for some of you. So do your best. The toes point up, your right thumb points up. And then start pressing your foot back into your hand. Root your tailbone down. You can turn the left palm face down, and if you like, you can straighten the left arm so your chest and heart come up. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave. So we want you to be positioned in such a way as you're actually breathing, and if you wanted to, you could sing. Sachidananda Murtaye. So lower your left elbow, your right foot, right elbow. Bend your left knee. There's your foot behind you. Reach back. Press your foot into your hand. So you're not actually pulling your foot towards you. Press your foot backwards. Root your tailbone. And decide if you're going to straighten your right arm. It's not everybody's pose, but some will keep the right arm down low. Some of you can straighten your right arm. As you're pressing back, lift your collarbones and your heart. Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Release your right elbow down, left foot down. Make a little pillow, turn your head to your left this time. As you notice the breath in the belly, I'm going to ask you to sort of remind yourself that the seat of Vata, the dosha of Vata, its seat is in the colon. Vata dosha is also governing your nervous system and your bones, so the density of the bones or the fragility of the bones. And the seat of Vata in the colon, when it's seated there and it's healthy, then we don't have the Vata, the wind of the mind, up in the head, causing the ceiling fan of the mind. So now I'd like you to press back to child's pose, and since you have your blanket there, go ahead and open the knees apart, and let's put the block on the blanket. It means that your head's going to be a tiny bit higher than it would have been with only the block. Turn your palms face up, elbows down. And very gently press your forehead down against the block to lift the base of your skull. And then let the shoulders melt down away from your spine. Right side, left side. When you press your head down against the block, it's not like a very dynamic effort, but what to know about that is you're actually causing the internal beginnings of Jalandhar Bandha, the throat bandha. So you lift the base of the skull, let the shoulders melt down away from your ears. And then walk your hands back towards your knees, and please rise up to kneeling. Now I'd like you to have a chair, please, and a couple of blankets. And so the two blankets that I'm going to be using are these white and gold ones, and they are both folded in the same manner, which is actually now called the storage fold because of the shelf in this room. Let me get my chair. So for starters, when you take the seat of the chair, we're actually going to sit in it, and you can have your two blocks close by. So when you take a seat here, this becomes a little platform for your head. Now, depending on your height and your flexibility and the height of your chair, where you sit on the chair matters. Like if I sit here and come forward and I'm towards the front of my chair, I have an easier time with the pelvis rotating over because of my height, my hip structure, and the height of the chair. Please rest your forehead down on the blocks, and you can choose to reach through to hold the toes of the chair. Now the seat of Vata is in the colon. So try to welcome the breath to come down. So the diaphragm, as it lowers down towards your pelvic floor, is going to be causing a massage of the inner body. Let that also be a massage that goes laterally, right and left, and into your back waist. Now, reach your right hand to your right knee. Take the left hand across to hold the toe of the chair under the right hip. And rotate your head to your right. And if the blocks aren't tall enough, please change them to be so. Or add a blanket to the blocks to make it taller. Just a little bit of a twist here. Watch what's happening with the breath. You have the luxury of simply paying attention. Let's go back to center, and then take your left hand to your left knee. Reach the right hand under to hold the toes of the chair. Turn your head to your left. So a twist to the left, and a time to watch the breath and what is occurring inside. And then releasing your left hand, put both hands on your knees, bring your head back to center, and press down to rise up to sitting. Okay, and then we can put the 2 blocks aside. Okay, so now I'd like to describe and ask for your responsible participation. Because I can't see you all when I do this, I won't be turning my head to look in your direction. And some of you have done this with me before at the yoga studio, in person. And so you know there's some variations, and I also know that you have enough experience to be thoughtful here. So I'm going to sit on this chair like backwards. I often say like it's a bar stool, but frankly I don't go sit on bar stools, so that's only a playful analogy. Then the knees go over the upper back of the chair, and I'm holding onto the chair, right? And then you're gliding, oh, by the way, contraindicated if you're having your menstrual cycle, in which case we do a different practice, so I'll talk about that in a moment. So most of my weight right now is still on the chair, on my sacrum, and yes, the chair is made of metal, and that's not the most fond sensation there, but I do want you to be able to see the structure of the pose, and I'm not going to put a blanket that would obscure what you can see here. Okay, so each shoulder tucks under, and the head is centered. Do not turn your head when practicing this pose. Then you take the upper arms. You see how I press my shoulders and upper arms down against the blankets, and I'm going to hold the legs of the chair, which strengthens my ability to press the shoulders down. And one leg up. Second leg up, this is called supported shoulder stand. Now, not everybody ends up in this position where their sacrum on the metal chair is comfortable to them. Some of you are going to end up with your sacrum a little bit lower down because of the height of your blankets or the height of your chair or the length of your spine, in which case you'll want to have some padding that you would pick up the hips and slide your padding right under the back of the sacrum. And that's something, maybe you can pad your yoga shorts or your yoga pants, right? And so this is called supported shoulder stand. And if you're not inverting this morning because you have your menstrual cycle or for any other reason, the pose I would recommend right now is called Supta Baddha Konasana, where we lie back on a bolster, the soles of the feet go together, the knees go out to the side and are supported by the 2 blocks. And you could place a small blanket under your head in that position. Now, if you're in supported shoulder stand, please keep your shoulders pressing strongly down towards the floor to secure the structure of the pose, but also to support the pressure change that's happening from your heart through your neck, through the circulation up towards your head. So the shoulders are strong and consistent. That is like tamas, the stability, the consistency. Having your structure supported and stable is actually very quieting for the Vata dosha. And having the colon inverted is also really helpful for Vata based on Apana and Pranavayu. The Vata is returning from the head to the pelvis right now. And then also excess Vata in the colon can be dissipated. Again, please don't turn your head in this position. We will be, what is it called? Dismounting. We'll be dismounting from the pose shortly. Of course, you can always release from any pose in your own timing. For anybody for whom there's capacity and grace involved, you can now take the legs over to supported plow pose. But that is only if there's no disturbance to your mind. And your physical body comes to this really smoothly. Now, if you chose to step over to the plow pose, you're then going to take your sacrum back to touch the front edge of the chair. And then legs back up. And then for everyone, keep the chest and heart lifted as you put the feet on the upper back of the chair. And then feet down to the seat of the chair. And then one hand, let's say, in my case, the right hand goes back near your head, palm face down. Left hand back near your head, palm face down. And you lift the shoulders and the head to slide off of the blanket and the chair until your hips come down to the two blankets. Then place the soles of the feet together, so like our friends who are doing Baddha Konasana, we're joining them right now. This is a variation on the pose called Baddha Konasana. So knees out to the side, soles of the feet together. Let the pelvis relax, the inner body, the inner belly can be at ease. Allow yourself to assimilate. And then for everyone, Baddha Konasana or this chair-based version of Baddha Konasana, please bring your knees together and roll to your side. If you've been in Supta Baddha Konasana, you'll roll downhill off of the bolster. If you've been coming at it from supported shoulder stand, you're rolling off of the two blankets. And please sit on the edge of the two blankets or on the edge of your bolster. And take one block for each knee and come forward. So this is Baddha Konasana, seated version of Baddha Konasana. And the work that we have been doing in both getting ready for shoulder stand, being in the shoulder stand supported, or even the Supta Baddha Konasana, these are efforts to come towards an inward place. So allow your head to relax and for your attention to be inward. And then walk your hands back to your feet, rise up to sitting, and take the legs out straight. And if you can, just keep your sitting bones up on the blankets or the bolster, and come forward to Paschimottanasana. And think of it as just a gentle forward bend. It's okay to bend your knees here. I'm really more interested in your spine having some gentle flexion. This is not a hamstring competition. And you can walk yourself back up to sitting. And I'm going to demonstrate here. Let me just turn my chair for a moment. You don't need the chair, so I'm going to put it aside. Okay, let me turn my blanket sideways because you guys can use this or your bolster. So when you turn these, I'm going to turn. You don't have to turn yours, of course. Instead of sitting on them then, you're going to slide down so that your hips are on the floor in front of the blankets. Lie backwards. Reach for one of your blocks. Place the block under the top blanket. So you have this stair step, this sort of cascading waterfall. And this is an ideal time to put your weight, your sandbag or your rice bag, on your thighs. Right, so this is a Vata grounding, Shavasana. Your head's higher than your heart and your gaze is inward towards your heart. So you again have that hint of Jalandhara Bandha. Let me get my rice bag so you can see how to use that. Of course, if you have a sandbag, that is probably what you're using. But if you needed to make a sandbag because you hadn't owned one before COVID-19, then you have this 10 or 12 pound bag of rice that you can use. And that goes on your lap so that when you lie back, the legs can feel a little bit heavier. It does not go on the lower belly, so it's not that it's impeding on the breath in the belly. It goes across your lap. And then palms face up. But if your mind's been quite windy, if it's been a little bit of a windstorm in there, do your palms face down. Shavasana is the most important pose in the whole sequence, so this is a time to increase your dedication, not a time to daydream. So allow your attention to go inward. With the intention for healing, right? As in the quote by the author, in the brokenness of the world, things aren't mended by time, but by intention. So you could imagine during this Shavasana that one of the things we do in life is we digest our experiences, and there's a process then of absorbing what is nutritive and resolving, dissolving, sending downstream that which is not nutritive. So deeply relax your eyebrows, your eyelids, the muscles of your cheeks, upper lip and lower lip, your tongue, the hinge of your jaw, your throat, the sternum, your heart, your diaphragm, the organs in the abdomen, intestines and colon, and pelvis, legs and knees, ankles and feet. It's flowing downstream from your forehead to your toes, even if you have to repeat that slowly, gently, again and again. Allow the physical body to get heavier with relaxation. Heavier and more inward for now. So allow that process to continue. Even if you have to move with that wave again from the forehead down over the entire body. Allow the physical body to get heavier. Do not let the mind bounce you away. Now, without moving the body, let your mind become a bit more aware. What happens when Vata dosha becomes more grounded? When the tamas, the stability, the grounding, the quality like earth, the quality of rooting, what happens when Vata gets to be more grounded? Vata is also the dosha responsible for our most light and luminous wisdom. And the phase of life, the third trimester of life, considered to be when we are wise elders. So notice what happens when Vata has the opportunity for sattva, for that luminous. And in between the rajas, the courage, is something more refined, not more dynamic. Doesn't need to be dynamic. There's no resistance to it. When we are grounded and lucid, between those two, the rajas is flowing. And now you can reach down to move the weight off of your lap if you were using one. When you roll to your right, go ahead and roll to your right so you're on your blankets. Your head is still supported. And then you can press down with your left hand, right hand, bring yourself up to sitting. your seat for meditation. And I think you don't need to sit on both blankets if you don't want to. My blankets are just right behind my tailbone and the base of my sacrum. So mostly I'm sitting on the floor. You could do the same if you want, or you can sit on one or two blankets. And please come to your meditative intention. Om Namah Shivaya. We honor the inner teacher in all of us, that principle that moves us from darkness to light. And join your hands together at your heart. Satchidananda Murtaye. That teacher is comprised of truth, wisdom, and bliss. Nishprapanchaya Shantaya, and can dispel difficulties and bring peace. Niralambaya Tejase, and reminds us of the tejas, the luminosity that is unconditional. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. So nice to be with you. I'm going to come up where I can see you better.